But let's start with back to school concerns. This time next week, thousands of students will be heading back to school for the start of the autumn term. And rules on keeping pupils in bubbles and mask wearing have been relaxed, as well as self-isolation requirements. Last week, the Department for Education announced that all state-funded education settings will be provided with CO2 monitors. But education unions and some teachers and parents say that better airflow measures are still needed to limit sickness and disruption to students. Concerns over coronavirus, of course, persist. And these education unions concerned that not enough has been done to improve ventilation in schools across the country. Well, Sammie McFarland from Dorchester, you remember, we've spoken to her many times on the show. She started the Long COVID Kids group after she and her daughter both became ill last March, and she's on with us now. Morning, Sammie.
Good morning.
Nice to speak to you again. What are you feeling about schools at the moment and their setup as far as coronavirus concerns go?
With long COVID kids, we're extremely concerned. Nothing has changed in schools since last year, and obviously Delta variant is more transmissible, and children are going back without any mitigation measures in place. And we still, we have so many children that aren't getting better. There's over 34,000 children suffering with long COVID in England alone, and they're conservative estimates.
Yeah, I mean, probably helps to contextualise this if I ask how your daughter is now.
She's still ill. She was taken by ambulance just on Thursday to Dorset Hospital. She's been ill now for 18 months. These are new symptoms that she hadn't had before. She's blacking out, which is horrific. And they don't have any answers. They don't have any treatment. And she's not alone. In our group, we're observing the same thing. Many of the children that were in the first wave are now developing new symptoms. And really, we do need to be very aware that this is happening, because we can't change it once children get infected. There is no cure. So we have to work on prevention.
Yeah, you've been talking for a long time about ventilation and the part that has to play in making schools safer. You put together this pack for schools. We're going to hear a bit more about this from one of the schools that benefited in just a mo. But you just want to remind people about that, because that sort of ties into these CO2 monitors that the government has now said it's going to be providing to classrooms.
Yes, we're thrilled to see the government have actually heard our call for CO2 monitors and have announced that they are investing in them. There isn't enough investment yet, but it's a step forward. And of course, it acknowledges that there's a need. So we started our school awareness pack in February 2021, sorry, and it's been going every month. We've updated it. It's based on evidence. It's full of evidence-based information, which is all referenced and sourced for the reader's convenience, and it explains the need for ventilation mitigation measures in schools. It talks about HEPA filtration. It talks about long COVID and why these measures are necessary. And it really provides a full pack of information that can be utilised in any indoor setting to help the reader make informed decisions.
As I say, one of the schools that benefited was Ashley Junior School in Hampshire. They received this pack, and because of Sammie's advice, head teacher Ian Ricks there decided to install CO2 monitors in his classrooms.
We haven't had to close down any classes at all. We've had individual cases who've had to isolate because members of their family and so on have been ill, but we haven't had to shut anything down in the last academic year. As I said, I am touching wood, but we've been quite fortunate, and I think that must be a contributory factor to that, alongside all the other things that we've introduced. But we think the CO2 monitors have certainly helped, and what they've done as well is helped children and adults within the school not get complacent and to remain vigilant, because you suddenly see this transformation and you can see that this air quality is deteriorating and you need to do something about it.
Ian Ricks there, who's a head teacher who benefited from one of Sammie McFarland's advice packs, if you like. Sammie, as I say, the government providing these CO2 monitors now to all schools. But Ian talks there about complacency, and I wonder if you're feeling like that could be a real concern in this coming term with bubbles and self-isolation measures relaxed. Does it feel like we are now starting to take coronavirus for granted to some extent?
Yeah, I really feel that we're sleepwalking into a massive problem. It's great that we've got these CO2 monitors, but the devil's in the detail. How will they be used? What will the guidelines be with them? What levels will be set and advised? We are so concerned because there just hasn't been enough mainstream media coverage of this, and I just don't think parents and families, caregivers, educators understand really what can happen when children do get ill.
Okay, and just a final word, Sammie, while you're on, news on the BBC News website today that the NHS has been told to prepare to give the COVID vaccine or extend the COVID vaccine programme to 12 to 15-year-olds. As somebody with an interest sort of in that age bracket because of, the long COVID kids group, how do you feel to hear that news?
So we fully support parent choice with the vaccine, and at the moment there hasn't been parental choice, so that's good news. I do think it's important to remind everybody that the vaccine is part of the solution. It's an important part, but we need the layers of mitigation throughout school, throughout masks, social distancing, hand washing. All of these things have such an important part to play. But of course, we're pleased that children will have the opportunity.
Really good to talk to you again this morning, Sammie McFarland from Dorchester there, the co-founder of Long COVID Kids.